So it's looking like 2024 will have been my most well-traveled year on record. I looked up previous years, and I think there have been past years where I hit a higher country count, but that was because I was doing things like taking trains across Europe where border hopping was pretty quick and easy. But the countries were relatively similar to each other, and I only sometimes spent a night. I think if you're looking at the amount of time I spent in each place and the diversity of places, I went to 5 different continents, so all the ones with people minus Oceania. And it kind of felt like every other month there was a big international trip. I really enjoyed these trips. I saw some amazing places. You know, I love to travel, and so I was very okay with that. In some ways, I do feel like I traveled a bit too much. I would have loved to do everything I did this year, just perhaps at a bit slower pace, especially when you consider that my life at home is not exactly slow-paced either. I don't know if I feel like going anywhere. I kind of like where I'm at, just being cozy. But all that being said, being able to see so many places like that, it's a pretty big gift, and sometimes you just accept that gift in whatever form it arrives. And this year it arrived in the form of a very, very full and adventure-packed year. I thought it would be fun to go and rank the top 10 destinations I went to this year. This year I could just do it all as countries. Some other years it might have made more sense to rank cities or whatnot, but countries this year lends itself to doing that cleanly. And listen, look, there's always going to be controversy when you're ranking destinations, and I accept that comes with the territory, okay? There's a part of me that gets it. I don't want to I don't know. I don't want to throw any places under the bus because these are places where people live, where people are proud of, and where I went and was greeted with hospitality and had a really good time. So let's just say that even coming in 10th on this list is a huge honor because these were some amazing visits. And also, as much as I don't like doing that, I also don't like the super political answer of I don't have a favorite. They're all great, because that, I don't know, man. The honest thing, if it feels more honest to say you do have some favorites, even if it's tough to pick, which it proved to be in this exercise. So let me just get to it. Let's do the top 10 places I went to in 2024. All right. Coming in at number 10, Guyana. Guyana is a very interesting country in the middle of a very interesting moment. I've already made a whole video about this. This country is experiencing an oil boom. Some 10 years ago, oil was discovered off of its coast, and since about 2020, it's been by far the fastest growing economy in the world. What this means is around Guyana, you'll see a lot of infrastructure being built and developed. At the hotels I stayed at, people were frequently asking me, "Yo, what oil company are you with?" They would usually ask this when I would order food because I think people just charge it to their workplace's tab or whatever. I really wondered if I could have scored some meals on Chevron's expense. So funny enough, Guyana before all this was known for being kind of an ecotourism hub. It's a great destination for birders. It kind of sits at the top of the Amazon. So it seems like a conflict of interests, like ecology, but also oil. A lot of Guyanese people I spoke to don't see it that way. Kind of the common thought is that oil has a limited shelf life as more people are switching to renewable energy around the world. So Guyana's got to get in on that while it can and use that to build more future-proof, more climate-friendly technology. That's at least the game plan. My experience of Guyana was really cool. No doubt the biodiversity there is incredible. So many different species of wildlife. You have the Essequibo River flowing into the Amazon, and there are some places there that are so remote you can go like a whole week without running into another person. That said, some of the things that are weighing Guyana down on this list is just it was a hard place to get around. Even within the capital, it didn't have very many spots where you would feel okay just walking around and exploring freely. And getting to those spots was a bit of a hassle. You would just have to hire a private driver, and a lot of times that that cost a good chunk of money. So that was really limiting in Guyana. It'd be interesting to see, as it continues this growth trajectory, should that happen, how some of the infrastructure regarding public transport or even tourism emerges. Number 9, it makes sense that these two countries are right next to each other because you really have to nitpick at the subtle differences, but that's Guyana's neighbor, Suriname, which I got to visit on that same trip. Suriname and Guyana have very parallel histories. Both were colonized in similar fashion around the same time, and then got their independence in similar ways around the same time. The way these countries feature a unique blend of different cultures is very similar. The difference is that Guyana was colonized by the British, Suriname by the Dutch, and so in Guyana you'll see a little more British and Chinese influence. In Suriname you'll see more Dutch and Indonesian influence, strong Indian, African, Caribbean influences, indigenous cultures in both. The reasons why I put Suriname just ahead of Guyana are that walkability thing I was talking about. You actually can walk across a good portion of Paramaribo, the capital of Suriname, and check out restaurants, explore some of the old colonial buildings, and walk up to the coast in a fairly comfortable. And the food was really good. All right, coming in at number 8, a very easy place to be, a very comfortable place to visit and to walk around. I'm talking about Estonia. It's a small, quiet Baltic country that has an incredibly high standard of living. It's a very tech-oriented place, widest free internet access to most of its population. Very well developed. Me and my kid mostly bopped around the city of Tallinn for a little bit, checking it out. So it was really cool. We found awesome bookstores and cafes and restaurants to get cozy in. There was a cozy feel. We went there towards the end of winter, so it had gotten warm enough to walk about, but it was still chilly and kind of set the vibe. I liked Estonia. I just feel like one of the things that's keeping it a little lower on the list is its size. You can kind of see a lot of it in a short amount of time, but that said, the bits that you are going to see are really cool, and I think it's on the underrated side as far as countries go. All right, number 7, we're going to Singapore. Now, I didn't know what to expect from Singapore. This was my first time going there. And the things I know about Singapore, right? It's a relatively wealthy country. It's really mostly a city, and there are the malls, the famous airport and whatnot. So I didn't plan a whole lot of time there necessarily because it felt like that wasn't needed. The focus of my visit was around food. I had a very positive experience. I had a lot of fun going into the hawker stalls, as they're called, which are basically just like areas of clusters of food stands. I love getting to know kind of the kaya toast and the typical Singaporean breakfast, all the different sub-cuisines, because Singapore's got culinary influences that come from China and India, Malaysia, all over. And I had a good time. I mean, the thing about visiting quickly is you only get so many meals with your visit, so I had to be very strategic with that. And Singapore gives you a lot to do if you take it neighborhood by neighborhood. I kind of wish I knew that a bit better, so I could have divided my time more strategically. As always, if you have food that good, you're going to rank high up on my list. Coming in 6th is the place I went right after Singapore, Laos, which in many ways contrasts with Singapore quite a bit. While Singapore is a small in size but large in terms of economy and activity type of country, Laos kind of swings the other way. It is a very chill country. And I enjoyed it. I've known it's like a backpacker hub and a favorite among backpackers. It's in this region of Southeast Asia that sees a good amount of tourism. So I had heard from a lot of people who had visited Laos that they enjoyed it. And I think I enjoyed that it offered a lot of the same things of interest that you would find in Cambodia or Thailand, with one of the differences being that it just felt so much more low-key. I had a really good experience getting to know some of the Laotian customs around rice farming. That was a cool hands-on opportunity. And I, much like Singapore and a lot of other spots on this list, ate really good in Laos. Because it's such an affordable country, I got to stay in one of my most comfortable accommodations all year. And I also got to eat some of the best meals I had all year there. I allowed myself to splurge a bit more, knowing that, I could afford nicer meals there than I could in most other countries. Okay, we're closing in on the final 5. I'm giving my 5th spot to Spain. Oh man, and it's tough to put them, that feels so low for how awesome Spain is as a whole. This was my 2nd time there. I wanted to see a brand new side of the country this time around though, so we went with Valencia. And this was a family trip, so I brought my 3 kids and we tried to do very family-friendly things, which was fairly easy in Valencia. Their public transit system worked great for getting our kids from one spot to another. That might be one of the things they enjoyed the most, was just riding the city bus to these different parts of town. You got the City of Arts and Sciences, like this huge museum of museums where we spent a couple days. We went to the Oceanográfico and the, what else was there? Just the General Science Museum, I think. There's a playground that was inspired by Gulliver's Travels. Guess that's what the kids are into these days. And so, especially my oldest kid had a good time getting his climbing on. I will say that the Gulliver playground statue actually went pretty high. And so even for an adult, it was like, be careful on this thing. But no, great time in Valencia. Also just some of the calmest, most open beaches that I had seen. We stayed really close to the coast, and sometimes we would be able to go out and it just felt like we had this wide swath of beach to ourselves. I also made paella almost every day, and that's just points right there. Number 4, a country that I visited for, what is this, the 4th or 5th time this year, Thailand. I went there on a work trip, which for me means a storytelling trip, which naturally lends itself for more memorable experiences. I'm talking to people from there, I'm hearing their experiences and their encounters, and I just, a lot of the people I spoke with in Thailand were people who moved there as refugees escaping conflict with their families. And so stories I'm going to remember, stories that stood out, and of course doing that in a country where good food is in abundance and interesting wildlife is everywhere. It's just so easy. Especially having gone there a few times before, in many ways it felt like I'm back, this is awesome, let's have a good time. Okay, we're down to 3 more now. Number 3, man, this country really impressed me. I was there for a relatively short time, but it made an impression. And I'm talking about Kenya, my one African destination this year. Yeah, I often hear about how making an impression means leaving people wanting more. That's kind of how I feel about Kenya. I would not mind a return visit at all, and I know there's more to see there than what I was able to fit in. I stayed in Nairobi, and for the amount of time I spent there, I was able to do so much. I got to explore the running scene. Nairobi has a national park that's like within the city or touching the city or something, and I got to hang there. And I got to talk to people who grew up in Nairobi and hear their experiences, which their stories were very moving, and I'm gonna make some videos later that dive into them further to do proper justice to them. But yeah, a lot of what I'd heard about Nairobi, and perhaps this is just a testament to how things have evolved over the years, but kind of painted it in a more negative, or at least a rougher light than what I experienced. And I don't know, it's also possible that I just got a very good sampling of Nairobi, but that's what I have to go off of, and I enjoyed it. There are so many standout restaurants in that city. So in the number 2 spot, Portugal. This was another whole family trip. We stayed in Porto and we had a good time. We actually got to stay with our friends Joy and Daniel, taking one of my favorite types of trips, which is one where you and family and friends just rent out a big place and enjoy each other's company. We stayed a little longer there so we could kind of have that more relaxed lifestyle, very fitting for the Portuguese setting. And yeah, lots of good places to eat. Very easy city to constantly go out and see on foot, and not a bad place to have a little bit of a home base, or we were just doing ordinary things, but savoring doing it in a new location, especially one as lovely as Porto. I will say that the municipal park of Porto is incredible, and that's just one of my happy spots. There are so many meadows and open areas where I could have just spent a whole day being still. Of course, I had the kids with me, so we just let them run around, but it was a good time. Okay, we have made it to my number one location. What's it gonna be? It is Finland. Okay, so typically one thing that really appeals to me about a location is just diversity. If there's a broad mix of cultures, of cuisines and influences going around, that scores a lot of points. That's probably true for most of the places on this list. I'll find some of that in Finland, but honestly a far lot less compared to other places like Spain, Thailand, Kenya. So why did Finland actually end up in the number one spot over all those others? It's simple. I just had that good of a time there. I went there on a father-son trip. I took my oldest kid, he was 4 at the time, and we just had a blast. We found really great flights to Helsinki, really affordable. We spent the day there. We then took a sleeper train up into the Arctic Circle. We went to Rovaniemi. We stayed in this glass igloo that allowed us to see the northern lights. They were there when we were, and we got to play around in an ice hotel and an ice cave. And I know I'm always gonna remember that trip. He started school this year at a new school. He kind of, really officially entered, I think, kind of a new chapter of childhood. Like the baby years, the toddler years, the preschool years, they're done. He's a full-fledged kid now. And this was a good opportunity to kind of inaugurate that, to see how far he's come and to know, yeah, we took on Finland together. You can and you are doing really cool things. So those memories, things like just the look of wonder when he woke up in the Arctic Circle, bopping around Helsinki food hall with him, seeing him take an interest in Moomin, those really stood out, and I'm always going to remember that trip. I would love to go back to Finland, not to recreate the magic, just to, remind myself of all positive associations I have with that place. And I look forward to being able to do one-on-one trips like that with my other kids as they get older. All right, I hope you had some good trips this year or in the year ahead. Personally, I had such good trips this year and such an abundance of them. I am fine with taking things a notch slower. With travel these days, I especially like it when I can go slower, stay longer, and just pace myself, because I really enjoy this. And when I'm enjoying something, I don't want them to fly by in a frenzy. I don't want it to be so packed up against each other I can't appreciate how good each one is, But for me, it's always fun to rank stuff like this. All right, happy New Year.